by the director of Griffon Poison Information Centre, Gerhard Verdoorn. Gerhard, very good morning. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Just confirm for me, Gerhard, the abuse of sanitizers is occurring within these two communities. We're talking about drug addicts, and we're also talking about alcoholics, as in people abusing alcohol. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah. I've heard from other poison centres also that since the lockdown, there's been quite a surge in alcohol poisoning, especially because of these two groups of people, but also because of people putting the stuff anywhere down in a funny bottle, like a cool drink bottle, and people think it's water. So there's also a third category of accidental ingestion.
Okay, what would they be looking for in terms of? I want to speak about the drug addicts when it comes to sanitizers. What fix do they get from it?
The only fix they can get from that is a typical alcohol fix. In other words, it will like we're taking an overdose of any alcoholic beverage. It depends on what they take. Now, they don't look at the container to see what the alcohol is, because there are two types of alcohol used in sanitizer. One is a typical ethanol that's also found in all the alcoholic beverages. And then the other one, which is from my perspective a better sanitizer, is isopropanol, which is never used in any beverage because it's not human consumptive type of chemical. And both of these will give you a fix. Ethanol will possibly give a better fix, but the isopropanol can be quite toxic to very toxic depending on the person's body condition and the mindset of the particular person. So whatever they do, they're taking a risk by using the stuff, because not only the alcohols, but they also have other chemicals in them, like glycerol, which is like a moisturizing agent. There's some scents, there's perfumes, there's stabilizers, emulsifiers, and there might even be a bit of ethylene glycol, which is absolutely lethal to a human being if it's ingested by mouth.
Now, I'm going to assume that the people who are actually drinking it, which I will assume are the more people who are maybe suffering from alcoholism, will be more at danger, because you're consuming it a lot more than if you're injecting it in your veins.
Yeah, a little bit of alcohol, like ethanol, into the vein will give a very, very quick and rapid fix, because it goes directly into the bloodstream and into the brain, and it causes that euphoria, which is triggered by normal alcohol consumption, if it's the ethanol one. If it's the isopropanol, it will be having other effects, because it is much more of a narcotic than, for example, the typical alcohol. But for the people that are typical alcoholics and they find a bottle of the sanitizer and they drink it, remember, you can quite easily get alcohol poisoning, because in any alcoholic beverage, even the spirits, there might be 40 to 45% alcohol, and in the alcoholic sanitizer for the hands, it's normally between 70 and 90%, so it's much more concentrated alcohol. In other words, you take a very dangerous overdose if you drink, let's say, for example, a typical 250 ml bottle of that. So that can put you away if you don't know what you're doing and you drink it too quickly, and obviously also catalyzed by the other chemicals in the alcohol can cause severe health effects or even the mortality of a person like that.
Okay, let's talk about the long-term effects to one's health of doing this.
Okay, we all know what the long-term effects of typical ethanol or ethyl alcohol is, which is ingested by normal alcoholic beverages. Any bit of that per day, if you drink your normal alcohol per day, no problem. If you drink excessively, liver damage, central nervous system damage, it can cause damage to the kidneys, it can cause fetal alcohol syndrome that we know is rife in a place like the Western Cape, unfortunately, and in other communities. So from that perspective, all the typical syndromes and symptoms we see with alcohol ingestion if it's done excessively. If it comes to the isopropanol one, my concern is that that is going to cause severe liver sclerosis much more rapidly than you will get with typical ethanol. It will cause possible crystal deposition in the kidneys, and that will lead to kidney stones. And you can imagine if you get kidney stones, excessive pain and the endurance you will go through with that. So the ethanol one, yeah, you've got a good chance of survival with long-term consequences. The isopropanol one, I'm not too sure that the patient that ingests a big volume of that has a very good chance of survival. And if the person survives, I can well imagine that it will severe damage to the intestines and to certain organs in the body.
Gerhard, just lastly, I'm sure you must be concerned as well because you're looking at the lockdown, many people it's forced a change of behavior in many of our communities. Do you think this might then catch on after lockdown and after we've gone past the pandemic? That must be a scary thought.
Unfortunately, yes, because wherever you go now, you see hand sanitizer being sold in anything from a 100 ml bottle up to 5 liter container. And there's very little guidance from the retail industry on how to use this stuff effectively and responsibly. And I wouldn't like government to intervene because they're bound to mess it up. But it should be told to everybody, when you use this stuff only on the hands, a little bit of a spray, at the most maybe 2 ml, which is sufficient to clean your hands properly, or keep them for adults, and then lock the stuff away. And after the lockdown is over, hopefully within a short period of time, then there should be a bit of a recess in the sales of the isopropanol and the ethanol hand sanitizer. Maybe go back to only small bottles of 100 ml because that is not sufficient to cause severe damage or mortality. But yeah, I can imagine what you said is true, that after the lockdown, this might continue.
All right, thank you so much. That is Gerhard Verdoorn, who is the director of the Griffon Poison Information Centre, telling us about just how detrimental to your health it could be, or it will be, if you consume any of the hand sanitizers, any of the sanitizers that are available at the present moment.